My business ran a full week without me once, and I still got on a plane the next month. People think that's a contradiction. It's the entire point. The disclosure first, same as always. What you're watching is my digital clone. My face, my voice, a script I wrote and never stood in front of a camera to read. I say it at the top of every video because I spend a lot of time telling you to be genuine, and the way I stay genuine about this is by never letting you wonder. So here's the question I get, usually with a little edge to it. If you've built a business that runs without you, and every meeting could be a video call, and you can reach thousands of people from your desk in Chicago, why are you spending money and 2 days of your life to stand in a hotel ballroom in Dallas? Fair question. Here's the answer, and it took me a long time to be able to say it this plainly. 30 years in this business, I have never once gotten a deal, a partner, or a real friend out of a comment section. Not once. And I've posted a lot. I've got content going out on 8 platforms every single day, some of it while I'm asleep. That machine is real and it works, and I'm not knocking it. But it does a specific job, and the job is not the one people think. Online builds recognition. Recognition is genuinely valuable. It means when I walk into a room, some people already know the name, and I skip the first 20 minutes of every conversation. But recognition is not trust. Trust is a different thing entirely, and it moves at the speed of a face. It always has. Every attempt to fake that at scale has failed, and I'd argue the attempts are getting worse, not better, because everybody now has the same tools to seem credible. Here's the test. When somebody's deciding whether to send you real money or a real referral, what do they actually do? They don't count your followers. They ask one person who has actually met you. That's it. That's the whole mechanism. One person who can vouch. So the real question isn't how many people follow you. It's how many people could vouch for you by name, right now, unprompted. For most people, that number is smaller than they'd like, and it's built almost entirely in person. Let me put a finer point on it. The internet gives you an audience. A room gives you witnesses. An audience watches you. That's a one-way relationship, and it can be very large and still be worth very little in a moment that matters. A witness can speak for you. They were there. They can say, I talked to him, he's the real thing. And that sentence carries more weight than a year of content because it comes from a person with something to lose by being wrong. You cannot manufacture witnesses from a keyboard. You have to go be somewhere. Now let's do the math, because this is where people talk themselves out of it. Somebody looks at a ticket, a flight, and a hotel, adds it up, and calls it expensive. Then that same person spends the same amount over a few months on software they never open and doesn't blink once. I've done that. I've had subscriptions running that I'd have to look up to name. So this isn't me on a high horse. This is me having noticed the pattern in my own accounts. Here's why the event feels expensive and the software doesn't. The software charge is small and repeated, so it hides. The ticket is one number, all at once, right in front of you. That's a psychology problem, not a math problem. Now the actual return. It's one relationship, not 20. One person who thinks of you when something crosses their desk. That's the whole return, and it's enough, and it takes almost nothing to justify the trip. But here's the part that makes people quit before it works. That return shows up months later, sometimes 8 months later. So almost nobody traces it back to the plane ticket, which means almost nobody learns the lesson, which means they conclude events don't work and stop going. The room pays later. It just doesn't tell you that up front. Which brings me to the thing I actually want you to take from this. Proximity is a strategy, not an accident. People look at somebody catching a run of breaks and call it luck. Watch that person more carefully over a couple of years. They are consistently standing near the thing. Same rooms, same events, same handful of communities, over and over, on purpose. Luck has a location. You can drive to it. That's not a mystical claim. It's just what proximity does to your odds. And I'd add this, because it's the version most people need. You do not have to be the most impressive person in that location. That's not the job. Don't try to be impressive. Try to be useful. Impressive is exhausting to perform, and everybody sees through it by the second sentence. Useful gets remembered 6 months later, which is exactly the timeline the room actually operates on. The question that has opened more doors for me than any pitch I've ever given is 5 words. What are you working on that stuck? Then you shut up and listen, and then you actually help. Right there, for free, with no angle attached. Nobody remembers your pitch. Everybody remembers the help. Now, I've told you to get in a room, and that's where most advice like this stops, which makes it useless. Because there are 100 rooms, and most of them are a waste of your money. So here's how I actually pick, and it's 3 filters. First, is the room full of people slightly ahead of me, or people exactly like me? Rooms full of peers feel great. Everybody understands your problems. Everybody commiserates. You leave feeling seen. You also leave with nothing you didn't walk in with. You want a room where a meaningful number of people have already solved the thing that's currently eating your quarter. Not so far ahead that you can't hold a conversation, just ahead. Second, does the format actually let people talk? Some events are theater, big stage, big lights, packed schedule, 5,000 people, and no structural reason for any 2 of them to speak. That's a conference you attend. What you want is a conference you participate in. Look at the schedule before you buy. If there's no meaningful gap between sessions, there's no hallway. And I've already told you the hallway is the product. Third, and this is the one people skip, would I go back next year even if nothing happened this year? That question sounds strange, but it's the real test. It's asking whether you believe in the room itself rather than hoping for a specific outcome. Because the room pays later, remember. If your entire justification depends on something happening in the next 30 days, you'll quit before the asset compounds. And this only works if you show up repeatedly. The people who get the most out of rooms are the ones who became regulars, not the ones who sampled 12 different events looking for the magic one. So here's what I want you to do, and it's not complicated. Name 1 room you could get yourself into before this year ends. An event, a mastermind, a local group, a conference in your industry. 1. Then go find out what it costs and put it on the calendar this week while you can still feel this. And when you get there, skip a session and stay in the hallway. The stage content will be online in 3 weeks and you can watch it in your pajamas. The hallway will never be online. It happens once with those specific people and then it is gone permanently. You pay to be in the building. Don't spend the whole time facing the front. Build the thing that runs while you're gone. Then go somewhere worth being. That's it for this one. Wednesday, I'm going to talk about the part where almost everybody loses the money they just spent, which is the follow-up. I'll see you then.